As you can see on screen, we are indeed back in Blue Water Village, and today we are going to be building another townhouse. However, today I actually decided to challenge myself with this build, and I actually decided to make my criteria for it a little different, something outside of just picking from a list of different kinds of interior styles. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll explain it in just a minute. Now, for those of you just discovering my channel and just discovering my little corner of the internet, my name is Michael, and I want to welcome you to Sovereign Gaming in Life Sims, the YouTube channel where I build worlds, lots, and share my thoughts on video games in the life simulation gaming space. So, we are continuing the build out of my SimCity project, and we are indeed back in Blue Water Village this time, which is the suburb just outside of the downtown core. The suburb of Blue Water Village is really like a happy marriage between like urban form as it dissipates into actual wilderness around the region and all that, and that was always done by design. And so today we are just building out one of the townhouse lots that just sits like right next to the last townhouse lot that we built. Everything remains the same, like the exterior is certainly something that I've kept because, as I explained in the previous townhouse episode, I really wanted to keep these townhouses to look the same. I like the color scheme that they have, and the color scheme that they have really tells a story of waves kind of crashing into shore, going from that dark blue to that white. Anyways, that's not really the that's not really the explanation of the tease that I had mentioned in the beginning here. Today I had decided that I actually wanted to build this townhouse based on a Sims family that I feel is kind of forgotten about, or at least definitely they're not talked about or really played with amongst players. They're not a very popular one. A dark horse of the families, if you will, if you can even call it that. And that family is the Kit family. And so the Kit family was originally introduced to us in the Sims 1 Unleashed, and it introduced us as this lady that had a bunch of cats. Well, in the Sims 2, there was a further iteration on that, and so the Kit family was again introduced to players when the Sims 2 Pets came out, and I ran across this particular family during my research during the for the Sims 2 Pets expansion pack review that I was doing. Anyways, in that iteration in The Sims 2, you play her daughter, who has you play the daughter from The Sims 1 of Virginia Kit, who has cats of her own and all of that. So yeah, there's a really healthy continuation of like a family legacy going on. And so what I wanted to do is I really wanted to pay tribute to that little bit of Sims 1/Sims 2 lore. And so I decided that I thought that this townhouse would actually be the perfect opportunity to help me break out of my own comfort zones here, and also help to pay a proper tribute to the Sims lore, which is really the basis of what this entire SimCity project is really all about, is trying to encompass the entire Sims 3 franchise. Not only that, but also paying tribute to the Sims lore here and there to make it make sense in the Sims universe. It's a big project, and I've taken creative liberties here, but this is one point of focus that I actually wanted to introduce into the series, is actually creating homes and houses based on how Sims live, or in this case, based on a household and what their lifestyle might look like in such a place. Before I kind of explain what my vision was for this particular townhouse design, I just want to reiterate that this will be one of the last townhouse builds that I do in Blue Water Village for a while. So if you've been really itching for me to build like a true suburban home and all that, and you've been curious about how that's going to turn out, don't worry. I have that episode coming up as well. So just stay tuned on my channel if you are looking for those suburban houses and those single family living builds, because those are certainly on the way. And that is part of the purpose of me actually building out Blue Water Village. And the whole purpose really of starting with the townhouses was A, to give me a place to start with, and B, it also helps to make sense for when I actually do the rest of the single family homes. And you guys are going to see that as this series continues to develop here. However, the whole purpose of these townhouses is really just to kind of explain where a little bit of density within a suburb would look like and how it tapers down into just like single family homes. It'll make a lot more sense the next time that we're in Blue Water Village, because the next build that I'm doing within Blue Water Village will be a single family home, and you guys are going to see how it all relates to the townhouses and all that, especially with its form, which is something that I'm very excited to build out. I haven't done it yet, but it is certainly something that is on my list of things to do. Now, let's talk a little bit about the form of the house. So, because the Kit family has a lot of cats with them, obviously the most important thing about this home is really making sure that I prioritize cats and cat movements. And so I decided to do something very bold here. I actually decided to add in an entire, like, I guess like a large scale cat tree within the living room. So that's why you'll see those L-shaped stairs placed where they are, because the intention there is that the cats would go up and just kind of look down on the Sims and all that, because cats like heights. So I decided to be really bold with it. Like, hey, maybe this, maybe there's like a little bit of generational wealth going on here, or perhaps like Virginia and her daughter have got pretty decent jobs and they've really saved up together to create this entire like cat hangout paradise for their cats. And so that would be why they could afford L-shaped stairs alongside their other staircase. But yeah, I decided that I really wanted to go bold with this in terms of making it livable for cats. And I guess in a way it kind of ends here because I placed a litter box in the powder room, where in the last townhouse build I actually placed the toilet in that certain area. But the cats can live on this floor pretty comfortably, which also makes it a great place to have kittens and all that if you're into breeding cats and whatnot. So yeah, that's certainly something that is available as a playstyle too for players. But yeah, the entire main floor is really geared towards cats. Specifically, the living area and the entrance is all geared towards cats, and making it as cat friendly as possible, as I would expect this family to absolutely be for generations and generations. So yeah, just on that cat tree area, like just on that second floor, I guess, within the living space, the cat tree really just only has a couple of cat beds on there. I figured that the cats would just go up there to sleep, and I put 4 cat beds up there by the end of the episode, because I feel like owning 4 cats is quite a bit. In The Sims 3, you can own a maximum of 6 pets at a time. So you can comfortably accommodate for 4 cats within this one townhouse here, which I feel is fair and a pretty generous accommodation to offer players. So yeah, I did just that, and I really like the way that it ended up turning out. It's kind of a design faux pas, but it does like block off the light, obviously, from the other windows a little bit here and there, and it does kind of obstruct the views. But I feel like the way that I was able to design this bi-level cat tree really within the living room was something that was still kind of stylish in a way. And by the end of the episode, I add in some pillars for it, just to again add a little more visual intrigue, and to also help make the bi-level cat tree make sense as well from a structural standpoint. So there was that consideration that I took in as well. But yeah, I used this kind of approach, like more so using a space to tell the story of the kit family as a means to help get me out of my comfort zone. I also really wanted to show you guys how these townhomes can be redesigned to look very different from one another, depending on your style or maybe even your play style in this case. And that was an opportunity that I really wanted to take with this build first and foremost. And also, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to take myself out of the comfort zone. Like, you don't grow when you're always playing within your comfort zone. And with one of my last episodes, I mentioned that there was, like, I had noticed a little bit of growth in myself as a builder, and so I just kind of wanted to continue to push that envelope as well. And this kind of playstyle really helps to push that envelope because the story's already there. I don't feel like I'm having to work with a completely empty canvas. Of course, that is a place of comfort for me, but in this case, the Kit family's story was kind of already told. They're generational cat lovers and they love many cats. So that was really all I had to take into that was really the story that I wanted to tell with this particular lot build itself. So yeah, a couple of cat ladies living together in this townhome. In my head, because this is The Sims 3 and because the timeline of the lore of The Sims 3 and The Sims in general is all kinds of messed up, I figured that I would actually place this at a time where Virginia is living with her daughter, because in The Sims 2, Virginia, who is from The Sims 1, had passed away at that time, and I really wanted to actually offer that time together. Regardless of what the Sims lore would actually be. And because, like I said, there's a lot of loopholes with the Sims timelines and all that, I felt like I could get away with it. And so I decided to take that creative liberty here in terms of timelines. But yeah, I used their story as an opportunity to try and branch out and to use different color palettes as well, because I feel like I've been using a lot of neutrals lately, which, you know, I'm kind of not apologizing for on one hand, but on the other hand, I need to vary it up just a little bit, just so that this series isn't just, you know, another 40 minutes or an hour out of your day watching me play with a neutral palette thinking that we're doing something new here. So I need to at least vary it up so that you guys can get something that is a little more so that you guys can get something that is a little more different than the rest of my builds, and to actually prove once again that I can actually get outside of my comfort zone. Although I am trying to depart from being addicted to neutral tones here and there are some pops of it that just kind of make their way in the build here. For example, there are parts of the living room itself, which is a pretty huge portion of the build, that uses a white paneling wallpaper from the Roaring Heights DLC world that that I still used as like a nice white neutral. But, you know, to my defense, I am using different walls and actually like different floors as well to kind of combat my comfort zone of just being straight up addicted to neutral palettes here and there. The wallpaper that I ended up selecting and placing behind the technically behind the fireplace and on some of the walls was something that was really bright and colorful, and I really loved it, and I ended up recoloring it. And I purposefully made the wallpaper clash with the fireplace because I wanted the fireplace to stand out, and I love the pattern that I used on the fireplace. And so I really wanted to make something a little busier within the living room itself, and I wanted clashing patterns. I don't want to convey that this is a perfectly decorated home that you would see necessarily out of magazines, but also pattern clashing can also be something that is done and looks great as well. But you know, I'm not too sure if I was hitting the mark on that one, but I do like the fact that the pattern on the wallpaper kind of clashes with the pattern on the fireplace as well. So that is absolutely going to stay. I don't mind it when things are imperfect, so long as they are intentional. And I know that we're just like coming from a build where, you know, I complained about the mid-rise, and I'm not going to bring that conversation here, but that wasn't something that I intended on having it look the way it did, and so that bothers me more than having something that's imperfect. A good example actually is when I was doing the Champagne's exclusive lounge and also the penthouse builds. Just with the game kind of forcing my hand, I was forced to place the Roaring Heights skyscraper object in an awkward position that just kind of has it floating over it, which kind of speaks to like maybe really aggressive air rights that a commenter had mentioned, but at the same time, my hand was forced on there, so I can forgive the intention there. But anyways, the wallpapers are certainly something different. I try to use different color palettes. You'll see throughout, like even in the kitchen and all that, I try like a yellow color palette. But in order to like bring those color palettes together, there has to be like some forms that certainly help to marry these things together. One of those is indeed the color white. That is something that I used as like the only neutral that I wanted to work with. Although admittedly, like I probably used a little too much of it in the living room. Like maybe I should change the shelves to the same color of the floors, for example. But for the floors, I use like a warmer yellow tone, kind of more like a honey tone for the hardwood floors. And that was something that is not really within my wheelhouse of go-to styles. So that was something that I guess helped to break me out of my comfort zone as well. I'm not a huge fan of honey toned woods and all that. I don't know, yellow is just like not my thing, and when it looks great, it looks absolutely amazing. And I think I do a pretty decent job at working with more yellow toned rooms and looks and all that within this build, but a lot of that is passable due to the hardwood floors using that yellow tone or that honey tone within their color scheme there. The subway bricks make a return. You'll see me place the subway brick wallpaper in the bathroom. Not too sure if that's the right place for it. That might be something I'll change, but I absolutely love the idea of subway bricks. I've already talked about how I feel like it's more of a fad right now and it might move out of trend later on, but it's actually a trend that I think is pretty nice, and when it looks great, it looks great. I feel like in this home and in the bathrooms in this home, it looked pretty good. I made the litter box like one of the high-tech ones, and unfortunately you can't like recolor it as detail as much as I would have liked to, because I would have made it a lot more white than I could. But I figured that they needed a high-tech litter box because they're obviously gonna have 4 cats living in this space, and so you'll need like a self-cleaning litter box to actually make that happen. And I'm not about to like place like 4 different litter boxes in 4 different locations throughout the house. Something that I would take into account here is just like a little bit of real life. Litter boxes are going to smell obviously, and so you want to like restrict that to specific areas of the home. And I figured that the powder room was certainly acceptable, and by making it high tech, it can accommodate for a larger amount of cats that you're playing with. If you guys didn't already catch it, this entire townhouse unit is something different from the last one that I did. And, you know, I decided to choose this particular unit because I felt it was more centered within the townhouse complex. And it also brings the players a little closer to the Blue Water Village town center, which is something that I've yet to create. But there is a town center plan that I have in the back of my mind, and it's something that we are not exactly going to get to for a long while here, because the plan with jumping between Blue Water Village and the downtown core neighborhoods is really just to kind of add more balance to the speed build series, just to give you guys a better variety of different kind of builds that I'm able to accomplish here. And yeah, the town center won't be built until like we actually catch up to Blue Water Village itself to focus on it. I hope that's making sense there, but there's a whole plan with that, and I wanted the players for this unit to be a little closer to that town center, which will appear just like across the street, or across the boulevard in this case. So yeah, when it came to the yellow kitchen, again, the honey wood floors really helped to help that make sense a little more, like when you walk throughout the house. And that's another thing too that I always like to try to keep in mind, is I try to always keep in mind like how one room relates to the other and how one walks into the other. So the hallways, I don't mind putting in those white wall panel wallpapers. The white wall panels is something I didn't mind putting in the hallways because it helps to bring in the white from the living room into the kitchen, where I continue using white on the countertops and all of that. But yeah, a yellow kitchen is certainly something that is well outside of my wheelhouse here. Yellow kitchens are like, I found a good reference for the yellow kitchen. I think like if I was to grade myself on the yellow kitchen build in this particular episode, I'd give myself like an 8 out of 10 on it. I feel like there are probably better yellow kitchens out there in the world that other players have actually been able to do, but I feel like this one is definitely passable, and it conveys the color palette I really wanted to convey in this particular one. So yeah, that was something that I had built. The yellow kitchen has like an extended island there, or sorry, an oversized island, I should say, which is another comfort zone for me, but it's also something that I'm very conscious of, and not every kitchen is going to be getting an island from this point onwards, so I can't promise that in the next build or in any other future builds either. By the way, I know I have been calling them the Kit family, but I have been making a mistake this entire time, and it is actually the Cat family that I am talking about, spelled K-A-T. So I do apologize for making that mistake for half of this episode. Look at that. But yeah, the Cat family that I envision it in this interpretation of their living space would include Virginia and Tara from both The Sims 1 and The Sims 2, just kind of living together. Speaking of which, the home feels very feminine to me, and I mean that in a very good way, because, you know, I feel like whenever I've been designing something, sometimes certain things feel a little more masculine to me, and I just feel like this this home entirely like feels a lot more feminine, a lot more welcoming, a lot more cozy and all that. And that was something that I kind of picked up on, and something that I actually did want to convey. I also wanted to use it as perhaps like, you know, suggesting a little bit of storytelling here, in that maybe Virginia and Tara's home actually feels very alienating for men and all of that, because they just don't feel at home here, for example, because they're, you know, because it's mostly decorated with like bright yellows and more feminine colors and themes, and they're also sharing it with a bunch of cats too. So, you know, the storytelling here that I'm kind of suggesting is that maybe men feel kind of out of place here, and they just can't feel comfortable here, or maybe, you know, or maybe there's a different direction that you want to take the story in. That is certainly up to you guys, but that was sort of the idea that I had in mind when building out this particular townhouse unit. In the dining room, I do place some wood panels on the wall to make some future walls there. I think I'm pretty sure I changed them by the end of the episode. I'm not too sure on that design choice myself, but that could be something I will look into at a later time. We'll just kind of have to see there. And one thing that I will absolutely make a note here, and as a reminder to myself, because we all know that when I watch these videos and do these audio recordings, that I get an idea that I want to just add in. And that idea for this one is going to be adding in some sort of a grandfather clock in the living room. I used a pretty big plant there, and I don't mind the plant, but a grandfather clock would just be so much better. And it also helps to, again, break away from neutral, clean palettes and all of that. Not that the living room is anywhere near that kind of design, but a grandfather clock would look so much cooler, and especially if it has like a cool design as well. But yeah, speaking of decor, there's really limited cat decor, and that's something that I really struggled with, because I wanted to celebrate the cats in pretty much every single room, but there's only like 3 pictures, you guys. So I had to use it sparingly, and hopefully I used it in places that had the most impact, but I was really struggling when trying to find anything like cat related that I could use, like even, you know, a picture of yarn balls, for example. That would be something very cat-like. There's just not a whole lot of cat decor, and I was filtering, like using the pets expansion pack filters and all that when searching through, and I just really couldn't find anything particularly that was inspiring, so I just used the ones that I liked sparingly throughout the entire build here. The pantry, though, in the kitchen is something that I absolutely get correct, and it has shelves. It looks wonderful, and I'm really glad that I changed over to just like the wall shelves there, because before in the first Townhouse episode, I was using one of the the standalone shelves, not the wall shelves, but the standalone shelves that came with one of the store items. I think it came with the Indulgent Bakery set, but anyways, I used that in the first Townhouse unit episode, and I really just kind of didn't like the look of that. And then when I switched over to these shelves, and you would have seen that in the last episode when I built out the 3-bedroom condo, I was using shelves there, and I absolutely will forever stick to that choice going forward. It just makes it look like an actual pantry room, and I'm very happy with that and the way that it turned out here. Although I will have to like change some of the things on the ground. I did end up finding like some sort of a small like pet food bag in the decor items when I was doing another build, and I was just like, I just had to roll my eyes on that one, because I just used the pet bed bags and pretended it was like cat food or whatever. But anyways, I did end up keeping the backyards the same, and I know that in the last Townhouse episode, I was totally gung-ho about changing the backyards every time, but I ended up keeping them the same. I think I was just being lazy, and honestly, I really like the way that they all turned out. And the fact that I've switched this to a different unit, and it has a gazebo there already, there's a tea set, I really like all of that. So I just kind of kept it. And because I kept this one the same, I decided to just keep the other ones the same as well. So you know what, maybe I am just being lazy with it, but yeah, the backyards remain the same. I went back on what I said, and I apologize, but at the same time, I really like how they still turned out. I did go back to the living room just to add in some more cat amenities. I forgot to put in an actual cat tree for some reason, so I placed one in there. It does kind of crowd up the place a little bit. Like, I placed it right behind a sofa, and I feel like it crowds it up, but I also, again, like, I don't want this home to be a perfect magazine ready home. I want it to be about the cats first and foremost. So I figured that, like, in the name of storytelling, placing the cat tree behind the couch would be something that is totally acceptable, despite the cats already having like a huge, bi-level cat tree with their own stairs. I still wanted to have like the real cat tree in here as well. And I placed like a scratching pad as well somewhere in the house as well. So it's not like cats are secluded to this particular area of the home. Like, it's pretty cat friendly throughout. But this was one where I felt like I was not doing the story any justice, and I was getting lost in the decor as opposed to thinking about all of the cats that they would have. So the cat tree is certainly something that stays for sure, despite it not being perfect, despite it not being magazine ready, I guess. But yeah, that is something I'm just gonna have to keep. I've talked about the cat family being Virginia and Tara, Virginia being the mom and Virginia being like the adult child and whatnot, extensively. But the way that I would envision it is that Virginia, because she comes to us in The Sims 1 as an elderly woman, she would probably live in the basement in like an in-law suite or like a nanny suite, just in the basement there, which I felt is more convenient for someone who is a little older, especially with this particular form of townhouses, because an elderly person could theoretically drive down the ramp, park their vehicle, and then just hang out in their own separate unit there, that they have a lot of privacy with. So that was a choice I decided to make here that I feel was certainly something that is realistic, and something that would actually cater to an elder sim in a way that is great. It would cater to an elder sim in a way that really offers that multi-generational family living. And that's something about this townhouse where I've done things a lot differently than the other townhouse unit build that I was doing. The biggest example being the fact that I used the dining room space in this townhouse unit as an actual dining room, whereas in the previous townhouse build I used it as a media room with a TV, and the living room was actually more like a parlor room and all that. So those changes are very apparent here, and the same thing goes with the basement as well. The basement in the last one was just like an office, whereas the basement in today's build is really that in-law suite or that nanny suite that you have generational living in there. So yeah, they're very different. Like, it's a way to use the same spaces and similar layouts in very different ways, and that was something that I really wanted to do going forward with this townhouse build and also future Blue Water townhouse builds as well. So in the basement suite, I decided to give Virginia, I suppose, a kitchenette with the stove that allows you to make scones and jams and all that. It was another DLC that came from the Sims 3 store, which is where I get pretty much all of my DLCs from. And so yeah, this kind of pairs well with the tea gazebo in the back because that all came as one DLC set, and so you can make like scones and jam for like tea and all that. So it pairs well. Like, they're premium content objects that actually interact with each other. So now we have the full scope of actions that you can take here. The only thing I might change about this is again the feature walls with the paneling. I know I ended up switching the paneling to something with more boards on it, and I didn't switch the one in the basement, so that might be something that I edit in some sort of a future like Blue Water Village edit episode, which is a very far away episode because we are certainly nowhere near done getting Blue Water Village, and that won't happen for quite a long time here. That is a far future thing. Anyhow, the fridge that I used for the basement unit was the same one that I used for the actual kitchen on the main floor. And I love this fridge all in all, don't get me wrong, and it might have to be something that I change in the kitchen. It does feel retro, and I really like these like little pops of retro within this build, but I don't necessarily really love it for the main floor kitchen, so that might be another thing that I change. We'll just have to see how I feel whenever I get around to actually filming the editing episode. Again, that is something that is so far into the future, like it is not happening in 2024. That I can guarantee that right now. But yeah, the layout of the basement honestly really doesn't lend itself well to an in-law suite. I really did contemplate at one point cutting out one of the parking spots and increasing the width of the basement because it does feel a little narrow. However, I do feel like with the space that I've got, I really was able to manage it in a way that can still offer a comfortable living space for an elderly person. And I also didn't want to get rid of the parking spot because I feel like that would go against like some sort of a building code if I'm really going to role play here as a builder. But also I wanted to make sure that the players that actually play with this particular townhouse unit have the option to give their Sims at least 2 cars to play with. And I feel like, in the context of the cat family, Virginia and Tara might own a car for themselves each. So that was something that I took into consideration here when deciding what to do with the basement. But yeah, it does feel narrow, and even though it does feel narrow, I feel like I play with the space pretty well. I even added in a rocking chair, and I didn't even have to use too many cheats for that. I don't think I used the move objects cheat for the rocking chair, to be honest. And I feel like that is, again, certainly something that allows a little bit of role playing. If Sims could knit in this game, and I know they can in The Sims 4, but if they could knit in this game, I could totally see Virginia knitting away in her basement unit with the cats, like just traveling between the basement and the main floor and just kind of like hanging out with Virginia and Tara throughout the day and all that. So, that was certainly something that I kind of kept in mind here, is just what kind of scenes and what kind of storytelling can players actually play out within this particular living space. So yeah, that was kind of my thoughts on that as well. I decided not to block off the basement from the rest of the home because I feel like Virginia and Tara would get along quite well, and they would want their cats um, to be able to patrol the entire home. I know that my cats do that, so I imagine that other cats love to patrol their territories. And I also feel like Virginia and Tara would get along, and with there being an entrance from the garage to the basement suite and the separate entrance from the ground level to the ground level floors, I feel like they wouldn't necessarily get into each other's space. Like, they can easily respect each other's privacy. So that was something that I decided not to do, is not to block it off. Although I technically could, but then I'd have to delete some walls. I didn't really want to do that. And I also didn't mind that it was pretty open between the two units there. The two technical units, I suppose. I'm really not sure, like, as you'll see me build the second floor, I'm really not sure how I feel about the panels as being feature walls. I thought I was doing something, and then I end up like redoing the feature walls with like narrower panels, and it looked better from there, but but I'm not too sure like what I'm doing there. I even tried to use colors that I don't normally use. So I used green in the nursery, and then I used like a periwinkle in the other bedroom as well. I'm okay. I have more of a comfort space with using periwinkle colors, but I don't really have a huge comfort space with like using a green. And I wanted to build a nursery here, which actually kind of departs a little bit from the cat family lore, in that and the reason why I decided to build the nursery and to depart from the lore is really just to make it easy for players to actually start a family within this unit if they so choose to. I know that for apartment builds going forward, like for the 1 bedrooms and maybe even some of the 2 bedrooms, I don't make a whole lot of units very family friendly, like for couples that want to have kids or want to adopt kids or whatnot. So I made sure to be conscious of that with this one here. And I know that in the last townhouse build that I did, I made it for kids, not for babies or toddlers. So I wanted to make sure that there was some variance between the different uses between the two. And who knows, maybe Tara is really thinking of starting a family. She's just waiting for that perfect partner to come along and to make that commitment to, or maybe she just wants to adopt one on her own. The storytelling is up to the players, so I will leave you guys there, but I've made it easy for you if you want to make Tara start a family and all of that. So yeah, that's just kind of that was just me like really building to tell a story there. I also realized like halfway through the building of the second floor that I didn't give a computer in the entire house there. So I decided to just quickly drop in a desk, which, admittedly is not really the greatest approach to this. And I also decided to add a guitar as well. Like, who knows, maybe Tara is into music as well and, practices with her guitar. Again, that storytelling is all for you guys to tell. If you so choose to like create the cat family and all of that. But I'm not very great at dropping skill objects, like even chess tables or something that I find it very rare for me to drop. And so I really wanted to like try to break the mold here that I have been working within. And so that's why I dropped the guitar, and it also helps to just kind of give Tara, or maybe even it's Virginia who's the guitar player, I'm trying to give them a little more personality. As you can tell with all of my master bedrooms, there's a standard walk-in closet, and there's also an ensuite bathroom. Now, the standard walk-in closet is something that will likely be larger in single-family homes. I know I've built them larger in other spaces as well, like in the penthouse space, for example, and also in Goth Manor, but that's Goth Manor, and same with Crumple Bottom Chateau. Like, I've built walk-in closets that are much larger there, but I also imagine that I'd be building walk-in closets that are larger in single-family homes. So if it's looking a little cramped to you, then I want to just like try to reassure you that in single family homes within Blue Water Village, there's a huge chance that they'll likely be just like a little bit larger. And, you know, with these walk-in closets and ensuite bathrooms attached to the master bedroom, I kind of feel like it's starting to become like a design standard in Sin City. And, you know, truth is, it probably is. So that was just kind of my mentality with that. So the episode really just ends off with me decorating the rest of the upstairs. Again, I'm not really too sure how I feel about the second and the third bedroom and what I did with those, because I just really made them into like kids' rooms or like a nursery and a teen room, I suppose. Anyways, maybe I'll edit that sometime in the future when I get like a fresh spark of inspiration or something, but I'll just kind of leave it there for that. It's all serviceable at the very least. And even though I'm kind of talking it down and all that, I actually really do think that this townhouse unit turned out very well. I think it also helped me break away from my comfort zone of just doing everything in a complete neutral and all that. I was using different colors that I don't normally play with, such as using like honey woods and all that, which I feel is more suited for, you know, country living themes, and that's not exactly a decor style that I normally play in. But anyways, coming up in the next episode, we are indeed going back to Midtown. We are actually going to be building the last skyscraper tower in the city there. Now, don't worry about the skyline. It's still going to fill out. It's just going to fill out from mid-rises after the next episode going forward. But I'll explain more about that in that next episode there. You can look forward to that condo build coming up next week, I suppose, for you. But anyways, that is gonna about do it for today's episode. Since we've been jumping between Midtown and Blue Water Village, even though I haven't gotten to the single family homes yet, just let me know how you guys are feeling between with me just kind of jumping between different neighborhoods doing builds. Do you prefer me concentrating on one neighborhood? Do you prefer this kind of style of building just to give you a more variety of different lots that need to be built in my custom world? Feel free to sound off in the comments below. I know we haven't reached the single family homes quite yet, and I'll ask again in that upcoming episode, whenever that is. but yeah, that is certainly something that I will certainly take a look at if you guys leave a comment. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, if you've been enjoying this series, then feel free to like this video and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If the tours aren't already playing, then feel free to stick around for those. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.